Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Stay tuned. Top of the 8 o'clock hour, you heard Mike Scott report on it. The death of Anthony Porter, the case that ended the death penalty, effectively ended the death penalty in Illinois, and the corruption around his exoneration. Such a classic Chicago story. Shows you how little has changed. We're talking about violence and essentially corruption through the lack of prosecution, the lack of enforcement of the law by Kim Foxx in the prosecutor's office. Well, this goes back. She didn't invent this. The current political class didn't invent this. This has been the case for Chicago for a long time, and it goes back to Dick Devine and this seminal case as yet another installment in this 170-year story in Chicago. We'll talk about that at 8:08. But now this fixes to be a very interesting conversation. Dennis Kucinich out of Ohio, former mayor of Cleveland. You remember him. He ran for president a few times. And he's always interesting. And he gave a good interview recently with a friend of the show, Matt Taibbi, over at Matt's Substack, about his perspective on politics as a political operator, candidate, office holder over the last 40 years. And it starts in the 70s when he was the youngest. I think he was the youngest big city mayor in America when he was first mayor of Cleveland. A wild time in the 70s in Ohio. You had Dennis Kucinich in Cleveland. You had Jerry Springer as the mayor of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I don't know what those Ohioans were thinking of, at least in Cincinnati. But for more on Dennis Kucinich's career and what he's doing now, which is
running for mayor of Cleveland.
Everything old is new again. He's got a new book out as well, The Division of Light and Power, which in part, I think, discusses his first time around as mayor of Cleveland. Dennis Kucinich, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Dan and Amy. Hello from Cleveland, Ohio, also known as Chicago's little brother.
Okay. And so the decision to take another shot at mayor of Cleveland 40 plus years later.
Yeah, I have lived in the same house I've been in for almost 50 years. Cleveland's half the size it was when I was mayor the last time, but we have levels of crime that are shocking. It's considered one of the most violent cities in America. Rising poverty rates, a third of the people are living at or below the poverty line. They need an experienced hand to guide this to a place where it's a safer city and more prosperous city, and I'm certainly ready to do that.
Well, why did so many people flee Cleveland?
Well, you have to look at the deindustrialization that came about as a result of NAFTA, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, the China Trade Agreement. Cleveland's an industrial town. It's and we lost a lot of jobs when those trade agreements came through. Now we're trying to move in a direction with technology, with certain medicine. We have a real strong position, education. But, I want to bring back manufacturing jobs to the city. And America still needs to make things. And the fact that we took a different direction years ago was not to our national interest.
Wait a second. You're talking about cracking down on violent crime and bringing back manufacturing jobs to America. Are you still in the Democrat Party?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Because
the Democrats.
I don't hear that.
Democrats.
I don't hear that from big city mayors.
Well, here's one you're going to hear it from. I've already called for 400 new police in Cleveland to patrol the streets, to walk the beat, 100 crisis intervention specialists who don't, need guns to respond to a call. And I want to create a civic peace department to look at the underlying causes of violence in our neighborhoods. But these candidates across the country who are ignoring the rising crime don't get it. They're out of touch. This isn't running a big city isn't theoretical. It's not something you learn in political science. It's a practical thing. You have to listen to what people are saying in the neighborhoods. And right now in the neighborhoods of the city, there's drive-by shootings. People can't send their kids out to play without fear of them being shot. Can't go to a gas station without fear of being shot, and carjackings. I mean,
it sounds like Chicago.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we're like Chicago's little brother. And so I follow what happens in Chicago very carefully. And I think that Cleveland needs to step up and have a police department which can enforce the law. You have to regard civil liberties, absolutely. But what's happened, in the wake of George Floyd is that there's been kind of a cutback in law enforcement. And, I understand the concerns of people who are worried about abuse in the police department. I don't like bullies with a badge, but we have to get back out there and enforce the law. There's neighborhoods that are being taken over by gangs.
Well, one of the things I like about you, in addition to sort of the, practicality of your approach, even on issues where we disagree, that the practicality of the approach, like you're talking about with public safety. In addition to that, and I think they're connected, is that you're somebody who will come on a conservative talk show and actually hash out these issues. And we are increasingly in an age where that is just not possible because there's not an interest level to do so. I know you were a Fox News contributor for a time. It didn't change your politics, but it expanded the conversation. And the only way
That's right.
The only thing the only way I think you get anywhere is if people hear ideas side by side and then they start to sort of make their own decisions based on, okay, well, Dan has this perspective from this basis, and Dennis has this perspective from this basis, and let's Dan, now figure out how to go forward.
Dan, thank you. And I just want you and Amy to understand that this book that I've written, The Division of Light and Power, is a story about my taking on corporate espionage and corruption, and as a result ended up in with a mob-directed assassination plot. And this book, The Division of Light and Power, is about corruption in a big city and a young mayor who's 31 years old who took it on. But check this out. I ran this city on a cash basis, cut spending by 18% without reducing services through eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. I mean, I know where government can be a racket, and I'm not going to take a penny of taxpayers' dollars and see it wasted on some racket. And so that's the same kind of approach that I'm going to bring back to Cleveland as mayor again.
I got to tell you, this is really interesting, this assassination attempt on you as mayor of Cleveland. I think that was a real thing. And you were mayor during the height of Danny Green, who was one of the most notorious mobsters in America in the 70s. Right. And so just tell people about that, because this is not hyperbolic. You actually were the target of an assassination plot.
Well, Cleveland was the bombing capital of America,
right,
in the mid 70s, and there was gang warfare going on for control of the rackets across the city, and gambling, prostitution, drugs, labor racketeering, loan sharking. Welcome to Cleveland in the mid 70s. So I step into this as a 31-year-old mayor, and there's a big corporation trying to force me to sell the city's municipal electric system. And the minute I start a campaign to block the sale of our electric system, which provided cheaper electricity to people in Cleveland, a high-powered rifle shot missed my head by a fraction of an inch. And then later on, when I'm in office, the head of police intelligence tells me, look, there's an active assassination plot. And later on, I said, what's this about? He says, it's about Munilight, our electric system. You're stopping some people from making a lot of money. And later on, Dan, the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Organized Crime backed up everything that I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's a remarkable story, and the bombing capital of the country. And if there's movies about Danny Green and what a thug he was and how he created such havoc in Cleveland for so long, amazing. But now, speaking of the rackets, Dennis, what about the idea that government has absorbed in big city America, and a lot of states too, has absorbed the rackets of gambling and drugs, and maybe, at least according to some New York City councilmen, prostitution too? You think that's a good idea?
Legalize prostitution? No, I'm not for that.
Yeah, right.
No, I'm not for legal. I'm not for. Look, I don't have a problem with marijuana, not because I smoke it. I've never smoked in my life, and for the record, sir, I don't drink and I don't do drugs. I mean, I don't know if that makes me unqualified for high office, but I will tell you, I don't have any problem with marijuana, but and I don't believe it's a gateway drug. But as far as legalizing all other drugs now, I mean, our society's in trouble. People are checking out because life is getting tough for a lot of people, and I understand that. But there are medical problems, there are mental health problems. We have to deal with those things. And I come from a big family. I was the oldest of 7, and we never owned a home. We were knocking around a lot in Cleveland's neighborhoods. I know what people go through. I'm not, life for me ain't been no crystal stairs, Langston Hughes Road. I get it. And so that's why I can be mayor again in Cleveland, because I understand what's going on. But that book, The Division of Light and Power, people in Chicago in particular will appreciate it, because Chicago, more than any big city in America, has the kind of vibrancy and the kind of reality and the grit and the grime
and the rackets. Yeah, right.
And the rackets, exactly. I mean, that's also Cleveland. And I've been fortunate to have a long career, but also I get it. I still live in the same house that I've lived in for 50 years, and I'm in the same neighborhood and with the same people, and I understand what our city's going through. And I'll tell you, Dan and Amy, the response to this book has been sensational. What Matt Taibbi wrote, I was humbling, actually, to have him assess the book in the way he did. But this book, The Division of Light and Power, is really it's about more than just my fight to save a city's electric system. It's really about how people can organize to protect their neighborhoods and their cities from getting run over by big corporations, and the responsibility that public officials have to stand up for the people.
And Mr. Kucinich, how are you doing in the polls, and who's your number one challenger?
Well, I have every poll that's been taken has shown me in the lead. So I have a pretty good chance to win this election. I've had a lot of campaigns, and there's nothing guaranteed in politics. But I think I'm going to win. I think I'll be in the next mayor of Cleveland.
You can't be a big city mayor without a position on K through 12 education. And so I wonder what your assessment is of the K through 12 school system in Cleveland, and what should be done about it in the context of COVID, in the context of curriculum in general.
Well, Dan, the question's important because in Cleveland, the mayor runs the school system too. Mm-hmm. And so, I've been looking at the school budget. They're top heavy with administrators. I want more money into teaching, and more money into classrooms. As far as the health issues, that has to be done in concert with public health experts. I'm not a doctor. And I'm not even going to play one on TV. I want to make sure that any decisions that are made about going back to school or holding back on classes are done with experts and with common sense. I mean,
you're going to make the teachers go back to school, aren't you?
I'm sorry?
I said, are you going to make sure the teachers go back to school in the fall?
I will be in touch with the teachers union to make sure that the classroom environment is comfortable for everyone. You can't just, as a mayor, you just can't give orders without reality testing what people are dealing with. And so, I'm not about to give an order without having a basis in science and in fact. So I'll work with the teachers. And, I'm certainly going to lead that dance. I'll promise you that.
He is a former mayor of Cleveland, perhaps the next mayor of Cleveland as well, former U.S. Representative and Democrat presidential candidate Dennis Kucinich. The book, The Division of Light and Power, and by the way, the movie regarding Danny Green in Cleveland in the 70s, Kill the Irishman, if you haven't seen it. It's Christopher Walken, Val Kilmer, Vincent D'Onofrio. It's worth checking out. Dennis, sorry to digress, but it is pretty interesting.
No, listen, Kill the Irishman was, is a great movie. I was just trying to avoid a movie called Kill the Croatians. So,
Yeah, right. Dennis Kucinich, we're glad you survived, and good luck in your campaign. Thanks, and with the book, and thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you could put a little, icon, image of the book on your website, I'd appreciate it so people know where to get it.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay.
Will do. Thank you so much. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560. The